Hi everyone, welcome to Candid Coffee. We are here with Elina Abovian. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being so receptive
Wearing
on
the
social
same
media.
outfit as you.
Yeah, right. Yes, for the record, we did not plan this.
No.
But I love that we are wearing something cute and similar because it shows how like-minded we were this morning thinking about this interview. I had reached out to you and you were very receptive on social media, and you're just very easy to talk to, and I felt comfortable reaching out and saying, hey, whenever you get a minute, if you have some time, I'd love to do a sit down with you, and you obliged. So again, I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm so glad. Thank you.
We have a lot of mutual female friends on social media that either they're acquaintances or friends, and some people we've gotten to know. And I'm so proud of you and Araxia that I did an interview with, and I recently met Tina Ojakian, and I'm very inspired by all of you ladies because of the hard work that you've put into your careers, and you've all worked for over a decade on building that, and it's really an inspiration for someone like me and a lot of younger women who may be looking up to you for inspiration and some guidance, and give them some hope on what they can do in the future.
Thank you. That means a lot. I don't know how well I can guide anyone, but I'll try.
Well, just the success of your career, where you went to a university, what you studied, and how you made it possible. Got married, had kids, established yourself, and that's something that we see on social media, and I think it's very encouraging. Even to me and people older, younger, it doesn't matter. Just having that outlet and that podium to show your work and what you've accomplished. It's inspiring to people that you may not even,
Not even
realize it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, a lot of people inspire me as well, and I think social media, especially, you just see the end result. Not that this is the end and by any means, but you definitely don't see the work for the past 10, 11 years that it took to sort of to get to here. Just like with anyone, everything takes a lot of work behind the scenes. So
absolutely, yes. One of the things that a lot of people love about social media, and you do it, and other people who have this type of career in media show a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the person, is that human factor. And we love to see, your day to day, and you with your kids, or you at a supermarket, or maybe like a wardrobe malfunction happens, or something like that, where it's like you become very relatable in the things that happen in your life. How's that been for you, just sharing all of that, and a regular day for you, a work day for you? How is that?
Well, grocery shopping with my kids is probably what I do 90% of the time outside of work. Day-to-day life, it's no secret that I wake up super early for work. I almost say I wake up very late for work because it's like middle of the night. So my day starts usually around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I'm used to it at this point. I made a choice to start working at that hour because when I had kids, it seemed very appealing to at least go to work early, get it done early so that I could be home during the day and do other things, like go to the grocery store, cook. I love to cook. And still be at home and be in control of my household, be able to take my kids to school, not so much but pick them up from school, take them to karate practice, all these things that I now get to do that I wouldn't be able to do with a regular 9-to-5 job. So it was a choice. And I think just like everything else in life, it's a choice, but you have to pay for it on the back end. And for me, it's the lack of sleep and just that abnormal schedule, You wake up at 3 a.m, I have no idea where I'm going to go. It could be a gang shooting, it could be an officer involved shooting, it could be court, right outside court, it could be, the beach for, a wave story or a drowning, it could be anything. And so I wake up not knowing, and sometimes finding myself in uncomfortable situations, being in unsafe neighborhoods, or having to talk about a fire that's right there behind you, and it's just all these elements, and when you're dealing with it in the middle of the night, it makes it that much more intense.
Exactly.
So I certainly do pay for that luxury to be home during the day. But you know, it works for me, so I can't complain.
Yeah. And you just like, you set your alarm, you wake up at 2, you know, get ready, and you just wait for that email to come. And
Pretty
so,
much, yeah.
okay.
Get the email, I'm out the door. You know, I'm calling my station, speaking with my editor, saying I need these elements for my story, because everything, you know, my husband came to our station for the first time a couple months ago, and he said, I was amazed that everybody in that room is all working for one thing, and that's the show. In minute by minute, you know, hour by hour, and we have a giant behemoth of a show that's like 6 or 7 hours. So, you know, when you walk into our newsroom, everybody's like just concentrated on that minute, just that segment, you know. So in the mornings I call my editor, and we basically discuss like all the elements, like video elements, if we have any interviews from the day before, because sometimes in the morning things are not necessarily breaking, but they're rehashed from the night before. Follow up, exactly. And so I'll call them and I say, hey, what elements do we have? All right, I found a statement, let's make a full screen out of this. I'm essentially creating creating my segment, right? Aside from all the information that I'm responsible for, to research, to read about, to follow up on, you then have to, you know, sort of bring that all down to 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes, however much time that you're given, and make it understandable for people. Because we get these huge, like I went through a 20-page court document today. Obviously, I'm not going to present all of that on air. That would be boring.
Synopsis.
So you have to kind of give like the most uneasily understandable synopsis to your audience, and at the same time, give them the most important facts without taking anything away from the story. Make it interesting. You have to kind of always think about these things. And of course, the number one rule in news is knowing what not to say, and not, you know, spilling everything just because you have it, because there are huge liabilities and things like that that we have to always be mindful of.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have this false perception of like, oh, if she's like on a site reporting, then she's just reading from a teleprompter. And
oh yeah, right. No, there's no teleprompter. That's the number one thing people ask me for some reason. I think it's so wild. They ask, you know, do you write all of your own stuff? And I'm like, stuff? You mean my stories? Yes, I write it. That's what I'm responsible for, you know? And writing it, sometimes you have like 15 minutes to write. So that's where like I think the training comes in, that you can, you know, read something and very quickly kind of analyze it. And sometimes I don't have time to write anything. I literally have to just stand there and just say what I know, say what I've obtained, you know? And a lot of times when it's breaking news, there's no script. You're narrating what's happening. You're telling the story of what's happening by trying to show what's behind you.
Right.
You know, today was a big scandal within the LA, you know, City Council, and so I had to go through a 20-page indictment and sort of bring that all down to 3 minutes, you know, and that takes just, you know, it's a lot of work behind the scenes that people don't see.
What if it's more information? You need 5 minutes. You know,
you usually do.
6
I mean, a
minutes.
producer will give you more time, but it's never really 6 minutes. And because we hit every hour, you'll say one portion of it, you know, in this hour, and then you know the second side of it. You know, next hour you'll tease ahead, like coming up, we'll talk about what, you know, the other side of it said. So you kind of have to like, it's creating a story, right? And you're sort of telling that story, and
leaving a little bit of suspense too.
leaving a little bit of suspense. Yeah, that's always good if you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's. I mean, I know that now in the last few years, but a lot of times you're thinking like, oh, you know, Sidhu Natsov goes in front of the camera and just reads, and that's it. Yeah, but there's a lot of
part
work.
is very secondary. If you can do all that and manage to look good, well, then you're kind of, you know, edging. That's your edge, let's say. But you know, otherwise, it's really just all about the work.
What's like, aside from getting up early in the morning, which we know, lack of sleep, which we know, I think I would like to know what's the most like annoying part of just doing that type of work so early in the morning, you know, probably the glam and everything.
I mean, I think my job really fits well with my personality. I was always a procrastinator growing up, and I think, you know, being in an environment where it's very deadline oriented, you don't have the luxury to do that. You know, I literally wake up and my sort of countdown is on. It's 2:30, I've got to be on air at 4 a.m. Okay, so I have exactly 90 minutes to get out of bed, get dressed, get to my location, write my story, be on air. So I think, you know, it's helped me a lot for time management, you know, because everything is a countdown for me. I'm extremely organized with how I do things now because I have to be, right? That's the only way to succeed. On the other side of it, I think the only thing that sometimes I don't like is just this, you know, having to be hair and makeup ready every single day for the past 11 years, and I do it myself. So I think that kind of gets tiring. You know, you just want a job where you can hide
in
the
a cubicle. Yeah.
I would love that. I would love that for like a while.
Just put your hair in a ponytail, no makeup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just go to like a board meeting or something, you know?
Yeah.
It's very different. I don't know what that's like because my job is very isolating.
It is.
You know, unless we're going to cover something that's actually happening, which on the morning show doesn't really happen. It's mostly just me and my photographer. And so it's just us working together in the field, or I'm, you know, talking to my editor on the phone. It's just us.
Getting the story.
Yeah, I
chop,
don't know
chop,
what
chop.
it's like to work
Yeah.
in an office, you know. We go to the newsroom, but again, it's very like isolated. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing.
Everything to get the story out, as you mentioned earlier. Wow, yeah. I mean, it's very different. It looks very glamorous on TV, and it looks very different from, you know, someone watching on their couch watching you. But I love the details behind it and how much work you really have to put in, and you kind of like you have only yourself to rely on unless you call and like confirm things and whatever, but like you have to present all of that
Yeah.
like ready to go.
Yeah.
It's pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, but I enjoy the pressure. I thrive under pressure.
Yeah,
So I think
good.
if you're someone that likes pressure, you'll certainly like working in news.
Awesome. Well, that's perfect for you then. As far as, you know, broadcast journalism, let's talk a little bit about, you know, school and your younger years, what you dabbled in, what you love to do.
The younger me. Well, I was born in Armenia. I moved here when I was 1. We first lived in Hollywood, then we moved to Glendale, and I lived there ever since. I moved away, obviously, for a few years for work. I went to Glendale High School, went to Cal State LA. I majored in broadcast journalism, television, media, and film, and also broadcast journalism. So I loved like the film school aspect of it too. All throughout school, I don't know, I was always obsessed with like theater. Ever since like the 4th grade, I was putting on like presentations. I think one time our teacher assigned us like a book report, and I said, I don't want to write it. Can I put on a play
Present,
and
yeah.
present it? And I got the whole class involved, and you know, I dressed them. It was like this 1920s book. I don't remember what it was. And so I got like the whole class involved. I casted the show, and I like brought my grandma's
Fun.
clothes and dressed
Yeah.
everybody. And I was like, you say this and you say this. So it was very bossy
Directed
in that
it.
sense. Yeah, and I directed it. And I just loved that. I don't know, I love that creativity and just like telling a story, right? Because it all boils down to telling a story. And then, you know, ever since I was 11, I was involved in TV in some way. You know, I was doing commercials since I was a little kid, and then music videos, and never a video vixen, but just, you know, tasteful things and
Right.
little parts here and there on shows and things like that. And I always enjoyed it. It was like a side hobby. I never thought I would do that full time. It was just something I fell into and then
Yeah.
just kept doing it.
And it's so natural. I feel like when kids aspire to things that are, you know, in the entertainment industry, and this is considered entertainment in a sense, for, you know, you're presenting and you're showcasing and you're showing yourself and you're putting on a story or a show. It comes so innate and natural, and for a child to love something like that, like I love that your parents embraced that and you embraced it and you followed your passion for that type of work. And
Yeah, absolutely. I think
showed
my
early
mom
on.
especially, she saw that
Yeah.
in me when I was younger, and she encouraged it and
Mm-hmm.
she nurtured it. She never made me shy away from it. She even took me to like acting classes when I was little,
Mm-hmm.
even though I don't think they ever wanted me to pursue acting, and I didn't want that for myself either. I don't think I could be in a position where I could, you know, to be that vulnerable, to be struggling. And so I'm glad I also had other things that I was interested in. I was always into writing, loved writing. And I think I honed in on that more in college. And then while I was interning, I worked for CBS Television. I interned on like the Bill Maher Show. I worked for a magazine. This is all while I was in college and after I graduated. Because even though I wanted to be in news, I think it's very difficult to get your start in news because you can't start locally. You can't start in LA. I get
course.
messages all the time from aspiring reporters that say, well, can I intern and work my way up to,
Yes.
to being a reporter? It's like, no, unfortunately you can't. I wish, you know, I wish that were the case. But now and that's always been the case. You have to move away, work in a small market, There are 200 markets, I think, in the country. And so like the smallest, imagine like the smallest town, and then the largest is New York, and LA is number 2. So in order to work for a top 5 market, you have to have years of experience in smaller markets where you're learning how to be live, where you're learning how to storytell, where you're learning how to be a reporter and be factual and, sort of not mess up.
Right.
And then get good enough. And then hopefully you get hired by like a big market like LA. So in my case, I graduated. So for about 2 years, I was working like odd jobs, marketing, freelance writing, things like that. And I enjoyed that, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And then at the time when I was working at CBS as an intern, and then I worked in the mailroom, I did a bunch of different things. We were like floated around in a sense. I was networking while I was there, making the most of my time, and I got offered a full-time job working in promotions. And that was when I told myself, I'm either going to take this job and go down a path that I'm not necessarily passionate about, or I'm going to really analyze my life and move away and do what I need to do. So a couple things in my personal life kind of fell through. And, I think that was a moment where it was do or die. I had to either start my career or I was never going to do it. And thankfully I made the choice to start. So I made a reel. It was awful. I literally shot it myself. It was so blown out, the background. It was horrible, but I did it. I said, whatever, somebody's bound to like me somewhere. And thankfully, I got a job in San Luis Obispo, which was a 124 market. I stayed close, thankfully. I moved there, packed my bags, thankfully I had the support from my family. And I was there on freelance. They wouldn't even give me a contract, because in news you work with contracts 2 years or 3 years. And then you move on to like the next market, and you're sort of climbing that ladder.
Yeah.
I just put my head down and I worked. I don't remember anything from San Luis Obispo except for the newsroom, because I was so hungry at that point. I left my home. I left like literally everything, all my friends.
So much pressure on you to like succeed at that time.
To succeed, right? To make the most of it, because I've already made this big investment in myself. And it was the first time in my life I've ever been alone, an Armenian girl growing up, in Glendale, sheltered, lifestyle. And here I am living by myself. And thankfully, I had the support of my husband was my fiance then. He was very supportive, and he would come and go on the weekends, and I would come and go on the weekends, and we made it work. But I was just very focused. Once I started, I knew that I had to take it to the next level. I had to come to LA someday. It's like I just put that in my mind, and I essentially never let go of that idea. And so while I was in San Luis Obispo, I was looking for a job, and the next best thing was Fresno. That was close enough that I could drive on the weekends. And they weren't hiring for a reporter. They were hiring for a photographer. So I sent the news director an email, and I said, listen, I know how to, I didn't write it like that, listen, but long story short, I basically said, I can shoot, because I'm an MMJ, multimedia journalist. That's what all new reporters are trained as. We write, we shoot, we edit, we do all of it. And so, not anymore, but back then. I sent him an email and I said, I will shoot for you, whatever you need, just please let me report. And he agreed.
Nice.
So I packed my bags, moved from San Luis Obispo to Fresno. Brand new city, I don't know anyone, I don't know anything, got an apartment, and I started working there. Little did I know that what I signed up for would be probably the hardest job I would ever do, because I was holding a 50-pound camera, going by myself to God knows where, shooting stories for the entire show by myself. And that's
just
dangerous.
Just throw a tripod and the
Fresno,
camera in your car and you went.
Tripod is 40 pounds and the camera's 50 pounds. So my back was like, I literally was like a pretzel for 2 years. But at the same time, I got to report during the week, and I really learned my reporting chops in Fresno, because it's a good town to learn that in. And then I went to San Diego. San Diego was a dream. I was a reporter. I was on camera every single day, and it was a beautiful place to live. I was in La Jolla, closer to my family. And that's that. The rest is history. And one more important thing to note is that the station in San Diego is owned by the same company as KTLA. So I always kind of had it in the back of my mind, God willing, one day I'll be able to...
Something opens up.
Something opens up, and I'll be able to go there when my contract is up at KTLA, in San Diego.
Right.
Little did I know that the news director at KTLA and the general manager were eyeing me starting the first few months. And I didn't know that. I was just working, just kind of waiting for when my turn will come up.
Yeah. I love things like that are fate like that.
The general manager, Don Corsini, who's like a legend in LA News. He's retired now, but he's like literally the Don, that's what we call him, of LA News. He came to San Diego and he said, we're just going to move you to KTLA. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Are you kidding me? I don't even have to apply for this? Like, you're just taking me? You're handing my dream job to me on a silver platter. Are you seriously doing that? But he saw that potential, and I think I had just sort of manifested it the whole time. And
absolutely
came to KTLA, and now I've been there almost 7 years.
it is fate. I mean, when they say it's destiny and fate, it is luck and opportunity and taking a risk and hard work and all of those things combined. And I think it was meant to be that it happened that way. And I'm so glad it did. And you did. You paid your dues in that uncomfortable way.
Paying the dues and being uncomfortable are necessary. I think
Yes.
that's when you reach real growth, is when you're uncomfortable.
Yes.
You know, staying in a comfort zone, unfortunately, is not going to get you anywhere. I think you have to
Absolutely.
step out of that comfort zone, realize what it is that you have to do, and just do it every day, and hope that, you know, you sort of land where you need to.
Yeah. You mentioned your husband being your fiance at the time. That's a long, you know, engagement, and him being very patient and having your back, and just, you know, it's Fresno, then it's this, then it's San Diego, and things like that. So it's a lot of change, but he stuck with you even before you guys were, you know, married, and up until now. How much of a support system has he been, and a partner and a friend and things like
Yeah.
that for you?
Well, sticking with me, we stuck together, you know, through a lot. We actually met when I was 21, and
How'd you meet?
at an engagement party.
Nice.
And so 3 days later, he got my phone number from the person whose engagement it was, and he called me. We went out,
things don't
and
like
2 weeks
happen
later,
like that anymore.
yeah, I know, right? People don't meet that way anymore. But it was a very classic meeting where the person in front of him didn't show up at the table, and the person in front of me didn't show up, and our tables were right next to each other. So the whole night, we have like this clear view of him, and I remember he's in a suit. He's this classic guy, and he really is. He's like such a classic gentleman. He has that vibe, and that's what attracted me, like, immediately. And
You guys were eyeing each other.
probably.
Yeah.
No, I was playing it coy, but yeah, I was certainly interested in him. And when he called me a couple days later, we went on our first date. 2 weeks later, he said he wanted to marry me, but we did not actually get married for about 5 years later.
Nice.
Because, you know,
so
life,
cute.
a lot happens in life as far as
course.
like things that we were both working on, and
Yeah.
you know.
You're young, work, school.
He's actually a lot older than I am. He's 11 years older, which I
Oh.
loved, which I love, yeah, because he's a very alpha male in a good way, you know, and I was very attracted to that. He's just like a classic guy, you know, he drinks a scotch and he smokes a cigar, and he likes art and traveling and
very
wears
dapper.
suits. He's very dapper, and I think that's not, you know, celebrated enough in
It's
men
not.
anymore, unfortunately. But I think I got the last one.
I know.
I hope not. I hope not. But I
It
really
seems that way. It
Yeah.
seems that way. I love that, and I saw the both of you together finally, because you shared pictures and everything, but you're very complimenting and very
you.
good looking together. And I haven't spoken to him, but you speak so highly of him, and he looks very nice. And so I'm so glad that he's been that, like a real man next to
a
you.
real
to-
rock, yeah, for sure. And I think
exactly.
if it were any other guy, I maybe would not be as successful in this career. Bottom
Right.
line, for sure, because he really did stick with it. He supported it. He essentially said, "Do what you have to do. I'm here. No matter what, we're gonna roll with the punches." And I did the same with him. You know, as a guy throughout his career, he certainly had things that he went through, and you know, it's a partnership through and through. It's never one-sided. You know, so life definitely tested us. But I think when it's real, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, but being okay with and secure enough to have your girlfriend or fiance live in a faraway city where you guys have to commute and kind of have a long distance thing. You know, he has to be very secure in himself to have you do that and have faith in you that you're gonna do well and stick by you. And it's, yeah. And vice
Absolutely.
versa.
And
you know,
vice versa, yeah, it goes both ways.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
trust and loyalty is a two-way street. So, you know.
It's awesome. You still glow when you talk about it. It's so sweet. I love that. It gives me hope. One of the things that your viewers and your followers and people who watch you love is you did share a video where you were trying to work from home right when the pandemic was starting.
Talking about the other side of this, what you have to do in order to make ends meet as far as paying your mortgage, because of course this is a very Patik. This is. It worked so well up until now. We'll send it back to you guys.
And it was such a funny video. And then you had another one, I think it was a picture or video, you were in your car and you had like rollers in your hair. And we had talked about this with Araxia. You don't have a glam team. You do it yourself. You have to be ready, dressed, hair, makeup, this and that. And it's hard to do that in the morning sometimes.
Right.
And you have them in your hair and you're driving and it's dark outside or there's just like 18-wheelers driving by. And it's really cute because people love to see just that funny, cute human aspect of our daily
day-to-day lives.
Yeah, it's not as polished on TV. You don't get to say cut and redo or
Yeah,
whatever.
no, it's not polished at all. Literally, it's like we're getting ready for the show 30 seconds before the show. I might like drop my hair roller, like, okay, I'm ready. Because you leave the look part of it to the very end. So, I don't have a makeup artist. Unless I'm in the studio sometimes maybe, but usually it's just us. So I think you get the hair and makeup routine down very quickly. I've like learned to do it in 10 minutes. And the picture that you're talking about, I work the morning show. So when I leave the house and I have a hair curler in my hair, no one's seeing me because it's all Uber drivers and truck drivers. So no one cares, at 3 a.m. And then one time I was working a daytime shift at like 9 a.m. and I roll out of the house the same way. Daytime, yeah. Daytime, normal human hours.
Yeah.
And people are looking at me on the free. I'm like, what is your problem? Have you never seen someone with a hair roller in their head? But clearly, no, they don't. So that was like newsflash to me. And then just other things it's like the world is different. I get off work at like 9 a.m. sometimes, and I'm walking into Target dressed like this. People are like, where's she coming from? What does she do for a living? So it's funny. It's just a different reality.
Yeah. It's great to have that schedule because, yes, you are tired, and you spend a lot of time with your kids during the day, but it's so great to just like, I love going to the grocery store when no one's there early in the morning, and you're already done with work. You're good to go. Hopefully you can go home and squeeze a nap, and then you can pick up the kids.
Naps are the best. I was never a napper. And then I became one, and now I can look forward to it. It's the best thing. Going home, no one's home.
Yes.
The bed is cold. Yeah.
Yes, the bed is cold. I love it.
It is the
before
best.
you pick up the kids, and
then I wake up and I feel totally jet lagged. Like I flew to France and came back.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I'm so refreshed after.
I'm always jet lagged.
Oh my gosh. God. I feel so bad for people who can't take that refreshing nap where it recharges you. That's how I am. Whenever I take a nap, I'm like, oh, I can do like more today because I get so fatigued by 2 o'clock. I'm out of gas, and I'm not a night person. I'm very much a lot of energy during the day, and then by 10 o'clock, I'm already out of gas.
I used to be a night person, but not anymore.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. I want to talk about a little bit about how it was working at the mall as a kid. I worked very odd end jobs in the beginning. I couldn't be a waitress because I wasn't of age, because you have to be 21 to serve alcohol. So I was a barista, or I was working at Chuck E. Cheese. And then I would just do little jobs at restaurants until I was old enough. And then by the time I was old enough to serve alcohol, I didn't want to work at the restaurants anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, never got into retail though.
Yeah, retail, it's all I did. My first job was when I was 15, so I feel like I've always been working. It was at Baker's Shoes. I got hired like right before Thanksgiving, so I like super busy,
Sales.
Yeah, I was Al Bundy at the age of 15. And then I worked at the Glendale Galleria for years. And then, eventually I was at Charles David. I worked at Rag Factory. I worked at Hugo Boss. That was fun to work, because I always worked with women. Now to work with men. And men are actually a lot easier than women.
Right, I know.
That was fun to work
Especially
in
retail.
suits. So like sometimes when my husband and I go shopping, I'm like, no, you need this and not a 3-button. And he's like, how do you know so much about suits? But I worked in suits for a long time. So yeah, it's fun. Retail's cool.
That. Yeah, I love
It
that.
teaches you good customer service. It teaches you good presentation skills, how to present yourself, how to be comfortable with people. Because I grew up incredibly shy. And I'm still
Yeah.
shy, believe it or
Yeah.
not. Like off camera, when I'm meeting new people, I'm shy. I'm not someone that will go up to someone and just introduce myself. It's just not, it's
Yeah.
not, that's unusual for me.
Yeah, I'm very much the opposite of that.
Really? Yeah, you're very extroverted. I'm extroverted, but very much introverted too. I like being alone as much as I like to go out with my friends. I enjoy, quiet time as well. So I
Yes.
definitely need that balance. But yeah, working at the mall makes you more personable.
Of course,
And I
yeah.
had to kind of like learn that because I was always very shy.
I love that you did that because it just having those other skills. Whenever someone has a career and they're already set, I love asking what they did before because I can't tell you how many times when you don't even think so, something from your past like jobs, like odd jobs, will teach you something that you really worked used in your career for
For
sure.
sure. Yeah, for sure.
So you've been with KTLA. You love being there. Hopefully, your career will continue going, and it'll lead to wherever you want it to go to. Since you're still young and you have a lot ahead of you, where would you like to go from here in the next 5 to 10 years? Maybe scoping out some things, and then just living in Glendale and being such a recognizable
Glendale.
face.
I grew up in Glendale. I
Yeah.
mean, when it came time for my husband and I to figure out where we wanted to buy a house and raise our family, I just wanted to be in Glendale. So did he, because I loved living here when I was little. And Glendale has so many great areas, and it's my city, right? So, but it's very surreal being in Glendale now, and and that's when I think realized like the popularity of our morning show is, just going around to like the regular store here and stuff. I never realized that many people watch the show.
Right.
And it could be anywhere. It's not just Glendale. I'll get off the show and I'll pop into a Starbucks or a grocery store or to have lunch somewhere. And literally every single day someone will come up and say, I watched you this morning. Oh my God, you were doing this. And I'm like, wow, you people really do watch. Like it's insane to me.
Yeah.
Because you do your job thinking that you're just doing your job, and then you leave and you're in your own life and in your own mind, you're not thinking about it anymore. But I feel very blessed in that sense to be at KTLA and to be on that morning show because it's so popular, because of how, everyone there has built this show for the past 30 years. Like I'm the lucky one, that really works there. It's not something I ever take for granted. And it's helped me build my sort of abilities, but at the same time, like my, persona too. The reason why people know who I am is because of that morning show, because of the success of that morning show. So I feel very fortunate.
It goes hand in hand. Honestly, it goes hand in hand. You see a show, whether it's a sitcom or like a new show, and you remember that face belongs there, and you're one of the faces of KTLA, and just going about your day and going to gas stations and I have that sometimes just in Glendale because that's the only place people would recognize me. People will do come up and say very nice things, and it's very encouraging to know that they do watch, just like you said.
Yeah, of course. I was in El Sereno the other day, and I had a break for an hour. I went to Trader Joe's. My life revolves around food, apparently. Food and grocery shopping. Went to Trader Joe's, and I bought a bunch of stuff, and it's like 9 a.m. in the morning, and she's like, well, I hope you get to go home and put this in your fridge before you go out on the streets again. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean out on the streets? Why would I be out on the streets? And I'm like, oh, she means, in the field. Yeah. She's like, yeah, I was watching you. You were like, you're in El Sereno this morning. I'm like, wow, that's incredible to me. That's amazing. I never, when you do anything, you never think about how people perceive it, right? You're just kind of so focused on what you're doing. And, I've been doing this for such a long time with no one knowing no one recognizing me essentially. But then when you get on such a popular show and now all of a sudden everyone does, whether it's Glendale or Pasadena or Long Beach or whatever, it's like, it makes it
worth it.
I mean, that's not being recognized is not what makes it worth it. It's the work you do and the gratification when you do good stories.
Yeah.
For me personally, I've been so lucky to be at a station that has allowed me to embrace, the Armenian community, and I've done a lot of stories for the Armenian community, but they're so supportive of that, Other stations may not be that way. And,
Exactly. They're like, why should I care?
Right. But,
Yeah.
you know, I push for them a lot. And we have a couple other people that work there that are Armenian that push for these stories. But, you know, I feel very lucky to have this platform and their encouragement, you know, as well, because it's the hardest thing when you work somewhere where you don't have that encouragement from your superiors.
And it's a blessing, and I really feel like it goes hand in hand. And I'm not just saying this because I'm biased and I like you and you're Armenian and you're pushing stories, but it has to work together, and it really does. Do you want to stay in broadcasting for, you know, next 5 to 10 years? I mean, your kids are growing up.
I mean, I can't imagine doing anything else, honestly. I'm so programmed in this life. I can't imagine doing anything else right now. I am working on other things as well that are complementary to the job, but are not news.
Okay.
You know, taking more of my writing skills and applying that in other things.
Okay.
So
I'm intrigued.
Yes, I threw the bait. I'll talk about it more when things get a little more solidified and when I'm allowed to kind of talk about it. But things are in the works, and I feel, again, very fortunate that, you know, I did that. And this was something that I always dreamed about, but I never thought it'd be possible. But I think that when you work really hard and you manifest and you sort of do the best you can to align yourself with certain people, places, whatever, so that you can eventually get on that path. You know, I subconsciously was doing that for years without realizing
Of course.
it.
And your work has to show itself. You know, you are a walking resume of yourself.
Exactly.
You know, so it's going to pay off a lot because you can go in so many different directions. And I'm glad you're incorporating something that has to do with writing and whatever else is going on. We'll stay tuned. We'll find out. But yeah, that's fantastic. I wish so many good things for you, and I'm so happy for you and excited for you.
Thank you. Likewise.